Tashdele. Good morning, Your Holiness the Dalai Lama. I am Young Jo, and I have been practicing Buddhism under Geshe Tenzin Namkha's teachings at Labsum Shedrup Ling in Seoul, Korea, which is called Samak Sorengsa or Samaksa in Korean. We thank you for accepting the invitation from the members of Labsum Shedrup Ling and the Korean Buddhists to learn together. We are excited to share this experience and expand our compassion. We have been learning and practicing Buddhism in accordance with your teachings. You always say that studying and logical analyzing is essential for practicing Buddhism. I was fortunate to learn with many others at Labsum Shedrup Ling, where we have been studying Dvida, Dutta, Lamnim, Madhyamaka, Tantric system, and Buddhist science. It's certainly not easy to learn, but we will continue to strive and truly understand their words. Until the day we reach enlightenment, Your Holiness the Dalai Lama, please remain as our Guru life after life. Now, all of us around the world are suffering from the pandemic, which has lasted for over a year. It seemed like we were slowly getting hopeful with the availability of vaccines. But with the Delta virus, we are again limited with meeting our loved ones, and many of us are facing challenges carrying on with our daily lives. The isolation and economic difficulties have caused anxiety and depression, and we seem to be losing patience as seen in the increasing violence around us. With the unique challenges we've been experiencing, how could we keep our compassion for ourselves and others? We would like to hear from you about compassion and non-violence and share your insights and wisdom. Your Holiness the Dalai Lama, we are ready for your words.
Thank you. So today, to the Korean Dharma friends, I am going to give an introduction to explain about the Buddha Dharma. I have this opportunity, and I'm very honored and happy to have this opportunity. As a follower of the Buddha, a monk, a bhikshu, and the Buddhism that has spread in Tibet, the land of snows, was established on the Tibetan soil by the Nalanda master, Master Chandarakshita, who established this Nalanda tradition. And so for over 1,000 years now, in the Tibetan tradition, we have the tradition of studying the classic, the great canonical treatises, and practice the three trainings: morality, concentration, and wisdom. And as far as I'm concerned, also, I too went through this process of first gaining some understanding through listening to the teachings and studying it, and then reflecting by developing the understanding through reflection on the teaching. Although I may not have the real experience, but I have some degree of experience of the Dharma. And so from my own experience, I will explain the Buddha Dharma to you, my Dharma friends. So first of all, I respect all religious traditions. So as human beings have different mental dispositions, we have different philosophical ideas, concepts, and ideologies. And accordingly, these different philosophical traditions and ideologies and so forth do serve their followers. And so the Buddha himself, in accordance with the mental dispositions of his followers and disciples, he taught different teachings. So because of the different mental dispositions of the people, all the different religious traditions are helpful to their individual followers. But what is common between all these religious traditions is the teaching of love and compassion, non-violence, and helping others. So in our history, there were cases where people have killed one another in the name of religion. But these should be considered past history. For example, in India, we have all the different religious traditions of the world. But all these religious traditions in India respect each other. So there may be some problems sometimes, but this religious harmony in India must be learned by us. By population, China has the biggest population in the world, and then second comes India. But in this country, all the religious traditions respecting each other is a reality here. And therefore, in the different parts of the world also, the different religious traditions, of course, followers can follow their own religion, but be friendly with other followers of the other religious traditions. So India could be an example for that. And so regarding the Buddha himself has said, the sages do not wash away the sins of the sentient beings, nor do they remove their suffering with their hands, nor do they transfer their own realization into others. So the sins which are the causes of suffering cannot be washed away with water, and the suffering itself cannot be taken or removed by his hands, Buddha says, and then his own realization also cannot be transferred into others. But then how do the Buddhas help sentient beings is, having gone through the process of first generating bodhicitta and then accumulating the true stores of merit and wisdom and finally becoming enlightened, then the Buddha shares his own experience of the truth in order to help sentient beings. And the Buddha himself has said, you are your own master, so what kind of future you would have is in your hands. And so the teaching of the Buddha with regards to what are to be adopted and what are to be discarded is something we must follow. So the root of suffering is our undisciplined mind, this unruly, untamed mind. And this should be tamed or transformed through the practice of the dharma, so that you can make change over time, gradually. And then so that you can tread through the path system, beginning with the path of accumulation, going on to path of preparation and application, and path of seeing, path of meditation, and becoming and reaching the path of normal learning. And the Buddha has said that the compassionate one leads beings through multiple means. The beings who are ignorant about the nature of things. And so the Buddha taught the nature of emptiness, which is peaceful and unborn. So I'm not knowing these, the beings wander in this cycle of existence. And so through multiple reasonings, the Buddha leads them. And so, regarding myself, over the last many decades, having studied the Dharma and having also applied the teaching within myself, I have seen some transformation within myself. And so it is possible to transform adverse conditions or circumstances into favorable ones for you through training of the mind. And so, with regard to the 3 doors of liberation, in order to experience the combined experience of shamatha and vipassana, single-pointed concentration and a deeper insight, you need to develop concentration first on the basis of the practice of morality, and then develops concentration, single-pointed concentration, and then you should use that concentration, single-pointed mind, in order to examine the nature of things, how things exist, and so forth, and then develop that insight. And through that combination of this samatha and vipassana, you can progress along that path. And the teaching on the Four Noble Truths is the foundation of Buddha Dharma. So Buddha first teaches about suffering, and then the cause or the origin of suffering. So, having taught that, he also taught that it is possible to overcome the suffering and its causes and reach or attain that of true cessation within ourselves. And therefore, for this reason, to reach the true cessation, he taught the path of realization of emptiness. And in the Heart Sutra, it is mentioned, form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, and form too is not other than emptiness. And so all of us do recite this Heart Sutra, including the Koreans, Tibetans, and so forth. And so, in relation to the different objects, we have different names that are used to describe emptiness. But regarding the matter or form, physicality of things which are empty, so the emptiness of physicality of things, so of course we have the 5 sensorial perceptions. But they are more or less governed or ruled by our mental consciousness. So the visual consciousness, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, and so forth are not so much related to our Dharma practice. But we should use our mental consciousness in the practice of the Dharma. So whatever experiences you may be going through through the sensorial perceptions, such as hearing bad music or bad news and so forth, if you are able to remain undisturbed mentally, that would help. So with regard to the Dharma, which has to be practiced by using our critical faculty of intelligence, and so you should go through the process, the triple process of developing the understanding based on study or listening to the teachings, reflection and meditation. So to my Dharma friends, I'm not just relating what is taught in the text, but I'm sharing my own experience, having practiced the Dharma for quite a lot, for a long time. Though I may not have the experience or understanding based on meditation as such, but I can say that it's 100% sure that you can see change within yourself. So if you apply the teaching within yourself, by developing the understanding based on listening or studying the teaching and the reflection. And then, for example, with regard to bodhicitta, I can say that if you have bodhicitta, all these difficult situations around you, which may appear to be adverse conditions or people adverse to you, can be actually seen or perceived as your favorable conditions for your Dharma practice. So all these adverse conditions can dawn as favorable conditions. So, for example, someone may be considered your enemy, but that person can become the best friend for your practice of patience. So as soon as I wake up, I reflect on bodhicitta, which is very helpful, and then combining wisdom and method, as it is mentioned in Madhyamaka Avatara, at the end of the 6th chapter, at the end of 6th chapter, verses 224, 225, and 226. So these are not just to be used as lines for prayer, but if you apply the teaching within yourself, you can experience what is mentioned in these, what is taught in these lines. And then regarding the understanding of emptiness, the Heart Sutra, as I said before, the form is empty, emptiness is form, can become your experience. And then in the same chapter, chapter 6 of Madhyamaka Avatara, entering the middle way, the verses 34, it says that if things were to have any intrinsic existence, if the intrinsic characteristics of things were to arise dependently, things would come to be destroyed by denying it, and so forth. So, having said that things have no self-characterized independent existence, then if you ask, do things not exist? No, the Master Chandrakirti says, empty things dependent on conversions, such as reflections and so forth, are not unknown. And just as from the empty thing, like a reflection, a perception can arise that bears its form. Likewise, although all things are empty, they do arise from emptiness in a robust way. And then, with regard to emptiness, there are lines from Mula Madhyamaka Karika by Master Nagarjuna, which says that what is dependent is said to be empty, and that is the designated, and that is the middle way. And whatever. And there is nothing which is not dependent, therefore there is nothing which is not empty. And so, when you gain conviction in these teachings through reasoning, then you can see some transformation within yourself as well when you apply the teaching based on reason. And so I wish to share this with you, my Korean Dharma friends. So Buddhism is not just about prayers, saying some prayers, or just posing, just sitting and doing some kind of a meditation, thoughtlessness or whatever you call it. But so the Buddha Dharma has to be practiced with compassion as the basis or the foundation. As Master Chandrakirti says, as compassion alone is accepted to be the seed of the perfect harvest of Buddhahood, the water that nourishes it, and the fruit that is long a source of enjoyment, I will praise compassion at the start of all. So this is what I wish to share with you, my friends, Dhamma friends. And now we'll start with the question and answer session.
Thank you for your teachings, Your Holiness the Dalai Lama. Now we would like to ask you some questions. First, Venerable Kumgang, who is a professor of Jungwangsanga University, will be asking a question.
Please.
전자님께 오래도록 지혜 법문을 듣고 싶습니다.
I hope to receive Dharma teachings from Your Holiness continuously in the future as well. Today, people say that we are at a critical juncture in time because of facing the coronavirus pandemic, economic and moral crisis, hurricanes or cyclones, massive wildfires in many places, and the climate change. My question is, Your Holiness, do you think that we are indeed going through a critical time today? What kind of crisis are we in? Is there a way out of it?
Oh, yeah.
So, human beings, since this world was formed, it's been millions of years. And it is mentioned that the lifespan of sentient beings or decline as time passes becomes shorter and shorter. It is said that during the time of the Shakyamuni Buddhas, the lifespan, maximum lifespan is said to be 100 years. So as time passes, we have also environmental problems. So the environmental changes happen, and therefore we have change in the climate. Some places have today too much rain, but others are too dry, and therefore we have wildfires, the forests catching fire. So these are changes in our climate condition. Some scientists say the reason why the weather becomes hotter and hotter is something. It's a natural process, and they say that in about 100 years, the world would burn because of heat. And in our text also there are mentions of destruction of the world through fire, water, and wind. And so in the end they said that the world would be destroyed by fire. And so it seems we are at the beginning, or somewhere at the beginning of this process. We as human beings can use our human brain, which is unique. Although animals also have their mind or their sensory perceptions, we have this unique brain. So at this critical time, what is important for us to do is to make this human life a meaningful one. This human life that we have obtained is a meaningful one, so that what might appear to be adverse circumstances can be used as a blessing in disguise. So when you don't have any problems, of course, you may not really pursue the Dharma. But when you have problems, then you can actually use that circumstance, that condition, for your favor. So, for example, when I was in Tibet, I didn't have many problems. But after coming into exile, because of the problems I have faced, the difficulties, and so I had the opportunity to practice the Dharma so that I can integrate the teachings on compassion, love, bodhicitta, emptiness, and so forth. So if I had not faced the problem of having to flee my country, I may not have been able to do this. In Tibet, I was sitting on a high throne, so I was sitting on thrones with dignity and so forth. But having become a refugee, having come into exile, it has really helped me to practice the Dharma. So it is very important to see the circumstances, to turn the bad circumstances in your favor. Next question, please.
Thank you. Next, Venerable Dokeng, who is Chief Monk of Mirugam Temple, will be asking a question.
오늘 달라이라마 존자님을 칭찬할 수 있는
Your Holiness, I wish to kindly request you to live long life for the sake of all sentient beings suffering in this ocean of samsara.
사바세의 중생들을 위해서
I became a monk after I contemplated death. I think that death is not something in the future, but it is here and now. So my question is, How should I think
어떻게 죽음을
when I come face to face with death?
존귀하신 달라미 존자님의 가르침을 청합니다.
Please advise.
나도 내버려.
So that is true.
천디 안다 대기 세대하기.
As I said before, the sensorial perceptions which are related with work in relation to the physical objects, sound, smell, and so forth, these have to do with this life alone. So however excellent conditions we may have, which have to do with these sensorial perceptions, will only be for this life. And when you die, all these sensorial perceptions will stop. And then, at the time of the clear light of death, as it is said in the Tantra, you go through the process of dissolution of the three visions. First, before that, you have the dissolution of the elements of water and the earth, water, and so forth. And then you reach the three visions. The 33 related with that of the luminous appearance, 40 related with the luminous increase, and then 7 which are related with the nature of the luminous immanence. You go through these process of dissolution of these three, and then you remain with the clear light of mind. And so you can see there are different degrees of subtlety within the mind. There's the gross state of mind, then subtle, and this within the subtle there are these degrees of subtlety. And so all these gross or the coarse states of mind dissolve into the subtle ones. And at the time of death, all the coarse states of mind will dissolve. And then you come to the point of the three visions. And then the clear light at the time of death. So you should familiarize yourself with these, the process of dissolution of these different states of mind. And in Tantra also we talk about transforming the three states of death, intermediate, and rebirth into Dharmakaya, Sambhukakaya, and Nirmanakaya, or emanation, the truth body, complete and resource body, and then the emanation body. And so when someone goes through the process of dying, they come to this clear light of death, and that at that point all the functions of our biological body would have stopped, and then the so my own, and then there are people who stay in a state of meditation even after clinical death. So my own late tutor, Jabjaling Rinpoche, Yongzalin Rinpoche, stayed in this meditative state for 13 days. So there are people who do stay in this kind of Tukdam meditation, the Tukdam state, as we call it. There have been many cases in exile amongst the Tibetans, and then recently we had a monk at the Gyute monastery who stayed in it for about 32 days. Though all the gross states of wind and mind energies have stopped functioning, but the clear light they still remain in meditation on that at the time of the clear light of death. So at that point, all the other states of mind, even these three visions of the luminous appearance and so forth, have dissolved. So the clear light of death happens after the three visions have dissolved. So the clear light of death has no connection or relation to the gross body, of this life. So in your daily life, daily practice, based on some deity yoga practice, you should reflect on how this death happens to you, so that you come to the point of the clear light of death. So you should go through you should do the meditation on the dissolution process of all these elements and the gross states of mind. So if you can make this as something that you at least have some experience of the process of dissolution, and then having the gross states of mind dissolved, and finally you come to the point of the whitish luminous appearance, reddish luminous increase, and the blackish luminous eminence, and you are so that you are able to recognize these experiences. And then finally you reach the clear light of death. So as you reflect on the dissolution process, you should also in your day-to-day life and practice of the dharma meditate on emptiness as well, so that when you go through this process of dissolution of the elements and the three visions and finally come to that clear light of death, you are able to so that you can make yourself able to stay in meditation on emptiness as well, by using that clear light mind, the subtlest clear light mind, so that you can continue in the next life also be able to practice the dharma, and particularly the tantric practice as well. So you should understand what clear light of death is and how it happens through the process of dissolution of the three visions and so forth. So this you should do meditation on these on a day-to-day basis. Next question, please. Next question.
Thank you. Next question is from Choi Geum-sik, who is CEO of Sambo Industries Company.
Your Holiness, we are keenly looking forward
달라이라마 존자님의 한국 방문을 진심으로
to your visit to Korea.
기대합니다. 아이가 자신을 학대하는 부모와 함께
In
살면
my family, children have great difficulty tolerating and forgiving their parents. How should children learn to forgive the harsh behavior of their parents? So generally speaking, so you may have a translation of Shantideva's Bodhisattvacharya Avatara in Korean. So the parents should take some interest or pay attention to reading and studying this text, particularly the chapter 6 and chapter 8. Sixth chapter teaches very strongly about the disadvantages or shortcomings of anger. And then the chapter 8 shows that of altruism. So if you also can make the children understand these teachings from their young age, without talking about past and future lives, but even just in this life, to have a peaceful and relaxed state of mind. So as I said before, the past and future lives are proved on the basis of reason, saying that there's no beginning and end to our mind or consciousness. But leave that aside, we should read, apply these teachings so that you have a peaceful state of mind, relaxed state of mind, and which in turn can attract more friends. So as I usually say, wherever I go, that we are all same human beings. And it is important for us to have this sense of oneness of humanity. We as humans, not only to talk about humans, but even animals, survive on the basis of love and affection. A child survives because of a mother's affection and love. And so as human beings, we also survive on the based on love and affection. So whether you believe in a future or past and future life or not, but this love and compassion is very important for our survival as human beings. So in our education system, in the school curriculum as well, since beginning with childhood, of course, children have this very strong sense of love that they receive from their mother. But this teaching on love and compassion is lacking today in our school curriculum. So we should teach children in school to go through about love and compassion. By using their intelligence, not just out of faith as such. So we should introduce this teaching of love and compassion based on reason in us as a secular subject in school system. Just as, of course, we do teach about physical training, physical exercises in schools, likewise, we should also teach about emotional hygiene. This is not about religion, but talking about religion, but as an education. So this is something that is lacking in modern education system. We should include this teaching on love and compassion for emotional hygiene. So I do hope that I could come to Korea. So I would like to have some Korean kimchi. My tongue sometimes remembers kimchi or Mrs. Kimchi. Next question, please.
Thank you. Next, Lee Sang-dong, who is a member of Labsum Shedrup Ling, will be asking a question.
님이 건강하시고 오랫동안 장수하시고
Your Holiness, I pray for your long
저 같은
life.
평범한 상인이 어떻게
Please advise how an ordinary person like
공성에
me
관한
should
수행을 할수
contemplate
있을까요?
the meaning of emptiness and use it in our daily life.
다다 동이 과리야.
So with regard to emptiness,
지금 가서 그렇게 남유 된자의 최를 통하게 매버다.
so for a beginner, someone who is beginner to the Dharma, and even someone who has no interest in the Buddha Dharma, quantum physics, the concepts of quantum physics, which where it says that things do appear to have some kind of objective existence, yet if you examine, analyze them, they do not exist that way. So this is what quantum physicists say. So this is something which in the Buddhism also has some connection with the teaching in the Buddhism, where it says that things are empty, that they do not have any essential nature. So first thing, that things do not exist the way they appear to you. But though we may say things have no objective or the existence the way they appear to us, we still can talk about matter and so forth. And then what they are projected by is our mind. So that you should think that mind, how the mind also exists. So if you try to examine, analyze things, whether it's external things or your mind, nothing can be found. So whether it's the object or the subjective mind, nothing can be found. And then when you recite a Heart Sutra and come to say form is emptiness, emptiness is form and emptiness is not other than form, and form too is not other than emptiness. You should reflect on them well. And in order to really gain good understanding of this, you should study Madhyamaka texts. And then for that, for the practice of compassion, altruism and so forth, you should study Bodhisattvacharya Avatara by Shantideva, and particularly for the understanding emptiness well, you should study Madhyamaka Avatara by Master, the great Master Chandrakirti. I read this text and Chandrakirti's own commentary. When they are on my table every day, and they really are helpful. And then, as I recited earlier, with the combination of both the wings of the true truths, I could actually fly across the space.
And
Chandrakirti also says, this suchness, at the end of the text, verse 55, he says, This suchness, just explained, is most profound and terrifying, yet people with past habituation will certainly realize this. Others, however, despite vast learning, will fail to comprehend. So those who are said to be the ones who have vast learning but will fail to comprehend these are Master Vasubandhu, Master Dignaga, and Master Dharmapala. So Master Chandrakirti was quite straightforward in this sense, in criticizing them. These masters who, though despite their vast learning, have not understood the suchness. So I will give teaching on Madhyamaka Avatara, Bhashya, or the auto commentary by Chandrakirti. So they asked whether Buddha Palita, whether I could teach Buddha Palita commentary or Madhyamaka Avatara Bhashya, and I read Buddha Palita and I thought that this would be quite tough, and so I decided to teach Madhyamaka Avatara. So I am like a new student. I feel as if I were right next to Master Chandrakirti and Master Nagarjuna.
Next, Bang Min-nu, who is also a member of Labsum Shedrup Ling, will be asking a question.
존자님의 장수를 기원합니다.
Your Holiness, I pray for your long life. When I have a strong anger, it's difficult for me to counter it right away. So how should I strengthen my mind so that I can overcome anger? So as I said before, if you could read and study the chapter 6 and chapter 8 of Chandideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara, keep it with next to you, so that whenever you need to use it, you can read it. So when you gain some understanding, a deeper experience and insight into the shortcomings or disadvantages of anger, and then the advantages or the benefits of altruism, it would be very helpful. So familiarization makes a difference here. When you become angry, suddenly at somebody, you may feel as if you wish to hit the person or even kill the other person whom you are angry at. But if you can reflect on compassion and love, not just to say that it's a religious matter, but even in your immediate life, in your own life, you'll see if you become angry, your face turns red. So you should see the faults of anger and the good side of patience and tolerance. Of course, this also relates to the practice of bodhicitta. As Chandideva says in this text, if you are not able to exchange your happiness and joy with the suffering of others, leave alone reaching Buddhahood, even in this cycle of existence, you will not have happiness. And then he goes on to say that which sensible person will feel discouraged to ride the horse of bodhicitta, which leads one from blissful state to blissful state without despair. So because of because we are not familiar, we have not familiarized our mind with altruism And we have not even thought about the disadvantages of anger and so forth. We are not able to curb or stop anger right away. But if you familiarize, you can actually overcome anger. Yes.
Next question is from Bae Hyung-duk, who is a nurse of Hyun-Yu Hospital in Bucheon City.
Your Holiness, I pray for you to give us teachings time and again in order to help innumerable sentient beings. Today, many people are feeling lonely due to the lockdown situation, and that in turn causes much mental disturbance in them. So could you please advise me how I, as a nurse, should think to have a maximum positive impact on the people who are suffering? You're right. Because of this pandemic, people are not able to meet each other personally, in person. But because of today's age of communication, we can use internet to connect with other people. So you can even gain lots of friends and gain also lots of good advice from others as well. So though personally you may not be able to contact other people, but you can still use the nursery.
Next.
Thank you. Next, Jo Min-sun, who is the director of a Seoul Dance Company, will be asking a question.
세세생생 스승으로서 저를 섭수하여 주세요.
May your Holiness have a long life. I experience fear when I reflect on the practice of giving and taking taught in the mind training teachings, and also when I take bodhisattva vows. Is there a method to stop this fear? Please bless me to generate the genuine spirit of enlightenment. So when you think about giving and taking, so because of our, because we are used to our self-cherishing attitude, it's very difficult to take the suffering and the negativities of others and give your positivity to others. As I quoted this line from Bodhisattva Charyavatara, where it says, without switching your joy and happiness with others, leave alone Buddhahood, reaching Buddhahood. So when you are not familiar, when you have not familiarized in your mind with these positive qualities, it's difficult in the beginning. But as you begin to familiarize your mind and you gain some familiarity with these practices, it will become easier and easier as time goes by. So when you feel fear, it's actually an indication that your self-cherishing attitude is being hurt. So you're not just leaving the teaching in words, but you, just as you recite the lines of altruism and so forth, that fear arises is natural. So you should keep working on it and reflecting on this bodhicitta and giving and taking. It will be good. So in the beginning, when you start school, even to learn the alphabet and so forth were difficult. But as you became used to these subjects, the different subjects, it becomes easier. So you should familiarize with this more and more.
Next question is from Park Young-bin, who is majoring in Indian Buddhism at Dongguk University.
강일 라베 꼬르신 가운데 펜당대와 마리 중에는 째레시곤 땡진 게들 샤페 시드버든 규지 스승들의 말씀이나 주장에 대해 지적을
Your
하면
Holiness,
스승들에게
Your Holiness, I pray for a long life. I've worried that I may accrue bad karma if I criticize the words and thoughts of my guru. So my question is this: when I use my critical faculty of intelligence to analyze the teachings, to study the dharma, how should I think when my views differ from those of my guru? So criticizing the teachings of your Lama, of course, if you do that out of disrespect for him or her, that is not considered bad. But as I quoted Madhyamaka Avatara, the Buddha himself has said, "Oh, monks and scholars, just as gold is tested by burning, rubbing, and cutting, likewise you should thoroughly examine my teaching, and then accept it, not because you have devotion in me." So, the Buddha himself has advised us to check his own teaching, and when you see the teaching to be reasonable, then you should accept it, not because you have faith and devotion in him. So, as I quoted Master Chandrakirti criticizing Master Vasubandhu and others, these were not out of disrespect for them. But in our Lamrim teachings, there is mention of, may the blessings of Lama enter my mind or heart by seeing whatever the Lama do as positive. But that has to be understood in a different context. If you see something that your Lama or teacher says which is against reason, or some teachings are against other scriptures, you can point them out. Oh, you said this, but this is against such and such scripture, and text and so forth. So in the Lamrim tradition, there is the Lamrim so Lamrim, Shungbawa, Mengaba, and so forth. So there are these kind of instructions that are given in accordance with the disciple who have strong devotion in the Guru. But Rinpoche's the great treatise of the stages of the path is taught in accordance with the Gadam tradition. These three, the Gadam traditions, Shungbawa, the textual tradition, and then the Mengapa, it's pit instruction, and then Gadam Lamrimpa. So, Master Tsongkhapa's great treatise on the stages of the path is in accordance with the Lamrimpa tradition of Gadam. So he has done lots of analysis and investigation, examination of the teachings of the Buddha. He has not actually gone on the wrong track. So whatever the Lama may be saying, and whatever his thought or the intention may be behind that may be, you should try to point them out if they go against the great texts. If the Lama is alive, of course you can talk to him. But if the Lama is not alive yet, and now, you should discuss these points with your Dharma brothers and sisters. And so in this Nalanda tradition, it is very important to discuss with others and gain the understanding, good understanding of the teaching.
Next, Baek Young-suk, who is a member of Labsum Shedrup Ling, will be asking a question.
존자님께 지속적으로
Your Holiness, I pray for your long life. My question is, why is it important to pursue the classics of middle way studies and perfection of wisdom studies? And why is it important to learn the logical procedure of collected topics? So during the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha laid down the Vinaya rules. So there is no use of reason that we can use. But the Buddha laid out certain rules and telling us you should do this and not that. So these, but during the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, in which he taught the perfection wisdom sutras, the Buddha in this teaching taught the profound teaching of emptiness, and then also the extensive bodhisattva practices and the paths and grounds. And so these, based on the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, we have the study of Madhyamaka, and within the Madhyamaka studies, we have the study of Mula Madhyamaka Karika, 400 verses, and the Madhyamaka Avatara, and so forth. And then in the study of perfection of wisdom, Parchin, there are, it is very extensive study, and we have a very the different topics are covered extensively in the study of Parchin. And so we study that first, and then we go into the Madhyamaka studies in the Tibetan tradition. In the Madhyamaka studies, we have the three texts, as I mentioned earlier, Mula Madhyamaka Karika, 400 verses by Aryadeva, and the Chandrakirtis for Madhyamaka Avatara. So in the monastic curriculum, we have the Duda study of the collected topics, the beginner's text on logic. So I have studied the Duda, which is also divided into three parts: Duchung, Duding, and Duchen. So, and then we also study Lorik, the study of mind and awareness, and go on to study logic and so forth. So the system of study that we have in Tibet, in the great monastic seats of learning, is something incredible. So we have continued this tradition even in exile, though the number of students may have decreased today. Though in the past we do spend more than 20 years, 20, 30, 40 years to complete the study of the 5 canonical treatises. In exile, the students in these big monastic institutions spend around 20 years or so. So many monks from these big monastic institutions like Sera Drepung Garden, Tashilimbu, and so forth, we have been able to re-establish them in our exile communities. And even in those monastic institutions where there didn't exist the study of these great texts, today, in the different monastic traditions belonging to the Sakya, Nyingma, Kagyu, and Gelu, there is this system of studying. Even they have the study of study of philosophical texts which didn't exist before. For example, the Namgyal Monastery, then the Lekshiling Monastery or Namgyal Monastery, which is the private monastery of His Holiness Dalai Lama. At my advice, they followed the study of the philosophy and logic and debate. So they are doing well. And then the great monastic and institutions of Sera Drepung Gaden and Trashul Limbo in South India are doing very well. And then in Namdriling, the Nyingma Monastery, and they also have very good study of the classic texts. And then during the Jang Gunchu, different monks from these different monasteries also gather to debate on Pramana Vartika by Dharmakirti. And so there has been some innovation after coming into exile.
Now we have 2 questions remaining. Shin Myung-ok, who is a member of Labsum Shedrup Ling, will be asking a question.
Yes, please.
존자님의 장수를 기원합니다.
I pray for your Holiness' long life. My question is, there are both Buddhists and others in my family, because of which we sometimes have different mental views. As a Buddhist, what kind of thoughts should I bear towards the family members who are not Buddhist? So as I said, we had a discussion earlier, all religions teach us to be a good person, to have a good heart. Even those non-believers, scientists, talk about having more peace of mind. And so they talk about peace of mind in relation to health, without talking about religion. So whether you believe in Buddhism or not, in your family, the family members, we are all same human beings. We all survived with our mothers' love and affection. So all the family members should feel close to one another, be kind to one another, and help one another, but not fight or quarrel with one another or fight with one another. Although there may be some quarrels or fightings, but you should never hold grudge with one another, which will not be good. So whether you believe in a religion or not, it's up to individuals. So you should think about love, kindness, compassion as the main practice. So as a Buddhist, so those who are not believers, as a Buddhist, you should look at them as same as yourself, being human beings. All people in the world cannot be Buddhist. And there are people who are non-believers in the world. And then so there are many different religions in the world at large, and many people who are non-believers. So even in a family, you may have this situation where people are either believers or not believers, believing in this religion or that religion. So religion is an individual matter, so it's up to the individuals. They have the right or the freedom to believe in whichever religion they want. But as a family, you should be friendly with one another, with love and compassion. Next.
Thank you. Here is the last question. Ina Young, who is a member of Labsum Shedrup Ling, will be asking a question.
존자님, 세세생생 저희를 섭수해
May your holiness take us under your care throughout our lifetimes.
Oh yeah.
My question is, will studying the collected topics help in the development of altruistic spirit of enlightenment?
그래서 생식을 통해 도나 사업실에 연구하리.
So even scientists are taking interest in
출루 통해 아니 나이류 나이 나
Buddhism and Asian religions.
령아 예수
So according to the
나시도가 돼. 그다 나셔다데 야 지금 제시한다면 스타일을 모두 지다 아니 령아 예수를
So we talk about me and my body, my speech and my mind. And then when you say that, my body, my speech and my mind, there is an I which is like a possessor of these three. And then there are people who remember their past lives very clearly. And so they have left their past body, but in this body also they remember their past life. So as human beings, we are born in this life together, and we have formed a connection with one another. And we will have this connection with one another in the future as well. So there are people who, as I said earlier, people who remember their past life. And regarding myself, so people, children even remember different objects, possessions from their past life. So studying collected topics, of course, can make your mind alert and not dull. And when you die from this life, in the next life, you may be able to, because of this clarity that you gain through the study of collected topics and so on, you may be able to remember the past, your past life, and you may be able to have connection with me as well. And so to strengthen the power of your mind and gain clarity and understanding, it is very important and very helpful to study. Studying the collected topics is very helpful. So you can see when you watch documentaries, you can sometimes see elderly people who have very strong devotion in me or the Dharma and so forth. So they would definitely continue to have connection with me throughout their life. So studying the Dharma, the collected topics and so forth, would also help to create this connection with me. So as long as we pray, as long as space remains, endures, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the transmigrators. And then the Charyavatara also says, may I be like the great elements of water and so forth, to be sustenance.
Thank you for your answers, Your Holiness the Dalai Lama. And thank all of you who prepared and attended this Zoom meeting. Lastly, Ganden Jangje, Geshe Tenjin Namkha, who is the abbot of Labsum Shedrup Ling, would like to share his words of appreciation. for Your Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Your Holiness, you are the universal friend of all beings, including deities, the great teacher, captain of compassion and nonviolence for the entire world. You are the special mandala deity on whom the flowers of Tibetan people stuck, our sole refuge throughout our lifetimes, and our great master, Vajradhara. I respectfully bow with my body, speech, and mind at your open lotus, holy lotus feet, which are placed on a high throne, and wish to briefly state the following. Your Holiness, today in response to our sincere request, you have given a profound teaching on compassion and non-violence to everyone interested in hearing you, and you have answered the questions from the audience in accordance with their varied mental dispositions. Therefore, with deepest gratitude, we, the members of Labsum Shedrup Ling Tibetan Buddhist Center in Korea, who are your students, would like to thank you from the depths of our heart for your immense kindness and compassion. Moreover, we will make your teaching the core of our practice and apply them to the best of our ability. Your Holiness, you have categorized the content of Buddhist literature into 3 main subjects, with the vision to serve all 7 billion people, whether Buddhist or not, on this planet. And we have completed the translation of the first volume of the Science and Philosophy in the Indian Buddhist classics into Korean, and it's been sent for printing to Sundar publishers. In brief, the land of snow, Tibet, is your chosen ram throughout your incarnations, and today its people have no one else to turn to but you, as you are their sole hope and refuge. Therefore, we fervently appeal Your Holiness, a protector of the embodiment of compassion, to live at least till 113 years of age for the sake of Tibetan people. Never waver from your compassionate gaze. Your Holiness, a great number of people in Korea have unflinching faith and devotion in you. Therefore, protector, the great treasury of compassion, we would like to request you wholeheartedly to pay a visit to Korea and turn the wheel of Dharma here in Saturday. We hope you'll graciously consider our sincere appeal to you. So the name Labsum Shedrup Ling, this name Labsum Shedrup Ling, it was given by me to your center, was given with the hope that you would pursue the teaching of the 3 trainings and also practicing the 3 trainings. So, Geshe Tenzin Namkha and others who are well educated, to you, I would like to say that you should follow the triple process of developing the 3 understandings based on study, reflection, and meditation, so that you may be able to progress along the path that leads to full enlightenment. I also pray for you to be able to do so. So Geshe Tenzin Namkha has done his best, and please continue to do so in the future. So those who have created this connection with me, I'm sure that you will have connection with me throughout your lifetimes as well.